Well, once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. We have a whole host of stories to go over today. Attorney General Barr is testifying before the House Judiciary Committee as we speak. But first of all, we're going to be talking about a group of medically trained and qualified, yet wholly irresponsible and completely ignorant to the terms and conditions of social media websites such as YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. People calling themselves U.S. frontline doctors. What gall. They had the nerve to hold a press conference yesterday along with elected officials in our nation's capital. They were spouting dangerous conspiracy theories about the safety, efficacy, and reliability of a dangerous and unproven treatment for CV-19. They had scientific studies, historical and anecdotal data to back up their claims, but have no mind. Thanks to the gatekeepers of liberal bastions such as this platform, we can rest assured knowing that these dangerous theories will remain hidden in the dark, visible to no one because they've been deleted. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. Thank you, Jack Dorsey. And most of all, thank you, Susan Wishwicky, for making sure the conversation over healthcare remains a private one between us, the patients, and the fact checkers on these platforms. Now, deleting the information on those platforms, that wasn't enough. They had to go one step further and suspend the Twitter account of Donald Trump Jr. That's right, because he also had the nerve to share the same information. We've got a couple of clips of Attorney General Barr at the testimony today. And finally, we're also going to be talking about the new funding route for BLM. It is no longer going to Act Blue. It's now going to something called the Tides Center, which is a George Soros-linked entity. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Summer's here, and all the good and bad things that come with it are here as well. Unfortunately, for most of us, that means costly air conditioning bills. And that's why I now keep a portable air conditioner on my desk, and it doesn't require a plug and socket to work. It uses a USB port instead. It comes with 3 distinct fan modes for different wind speeds. Now, not only that, but it's more than an air conditioner. It's also an air purifier and a humidifier. So you're actually getting 3 completely different ways to handle the summer heat and breathe higher quality air. I can't recommend this air conditioner enough, and that's why I'm extending to my audience and listeners 50% off their own mini AC. And if you order today, you're also going to get free delivery. Go to easysummercool.com. That's easysummercool.com. Click the link in the description or the pinned comment and get your own and start saving money on AC bills today. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all today, after a massively popular video was broadcast from a press conference at our nation's capital yesterday, something like over 17 million people watching it on Facebook Live, Facebook decided to delete the video. That's right, this is the video from U.S. frontline doctors and their presser yesterday dispelling what they call misinformation about CV-19, including the attacks on the life-saving HCQ treatments. The medical professionals that are running the fact-checking at Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube know better than any of us, and they certainly know better than medically trained doctors with years of experience, decades between them. And as I said in the intro, pay no mind to scientific studies, pay no mind to historical data, pay no mind to anecdotal data from doctors treating this malady on the front lines of hospitals all across the nation, because the only people who really understand our healthcare are the fact checkers and, of course, the World Health Organization. Now, here on the screen right now is Simone Gold. She was one of those doctors who had the nerve to stand up against the fact checkers at the world's most prestigious social media platforms. Now, they held what they called a white coat summit on Monday in Washington, D.C., and they were very concerned about all of the disinformation that is being played out across the country right now when it comes to this very specific issue in healthcare. On their website, they make a statement which the fact checkers particularly disagree with. They said if Americans continue to let so-called experts and media personalities make their decisions, the great American experiment of a constitutional republic with representative democracy will cease. Wow, seems really ignorant and untrue true to me. I know that celebrities and the fact checkers at Facebook are the best place to go for medical advice. When I want to know what treatments are most successful, I check out the Instagram live feeds of some of my favorite celebrities like Oprah, Ellen, or Tom Hanks, because I know they'll always give it to me straight. Now, here is a list of the doctors that were speaking at the event today. Let's take a look at that. I can't even pull it up because it looks like Squarespace has deleted their website. It says website expired, and it's americasfrontlinedoctors.com. Let's go see if they actually have an archive of the site, so maybe we can get past this ridiculousness. All right, so here we have an archive. Thank Lord. These are the apparent healthcare professionals who spoke yesterday. So first off, we have Dr. Scott Barber. He is the founder and owner of Barber Orthopedics and Spine Clinics. There's 5 of them, apparently. They have a surgery center in Atlanta, Georgia. Looks like he has published articles and book chapters on orthopedic surgery, and he's been an editor for the American Journal of Sports Medicine. And he even has his own dangerous podcast called The Doctor's Lounge. Sounds really nefarious. Then we have Dr. Jeffrey Blake, who is a board-certified primary care physician who's been in private practice for 25 years. That doesn't sound long enough to me to be able to make healthcare recommendations to anyone in the world. It looks like he did his family practice residency at the University of California, Irvine. Everybody knows that UC Irvine is not a real medical school. He's also served as an associate clinical professor at UC Irvine and a board member of the Orange County Medical Association. It's also common knowledge that the OCMA is basically the fake news equivalent of the medical world. When you combine that with the fact that he was an elected school board member for Los Alamitos Unified School District for 12 years, and the fact that he is the school board chair of a free public charter school in Orange County, it makes it pretty obvious that he knows nothing about family medicine. Then, of course, there's Dr. Taryn Clark, who is a board-certified neurologist. We all know that's basically the easiest medical degree that you can get. He actually focuses on the diagnosis and management of Alzheimer's disease and other cognitive disorders. So clearly not someone you want to take your grandparents to. The Alzheimer's Foundation of America also made the mistake of selecting her as their Dementia Care Professional of the Year in 2015. We also have Simone Gold. She's an MD, a JD, and an FABEM, so probably not very smart. She is a board-certified emergency physician. She went to the Chicago Medical School before attending Stanford University Law School to earn her Juris Doctorate. And then she completed her residency in emergency medicine at Stony Brook Hospital in New York. All of these are agencies that you want nothing to do with if you're looking to have some level of prestige in the medical community. Dr. Robert Hamilton, he is a general pediatrician in Santa Monica. He's been practicing for 36 years. I know, guys, I know what you're saying. 36 years is nowhere long enough to be able to make proclamations from our nation's capital about healthcare and the types of treatments that you might be interested in checking out. Dr. Kristen Held, she is a board-certified ophthalmologist, so she just works with eyes. She knows nothing about the rest of the body. Dr. Joseph Lapato, he went to Harvard, so clearly we don't want to listen to him ever. Dr. Mark McDonald, he went to UCLA, so, just forget about it. Dr. James Todaro, he went to Columbia University. It was probably a mail-in medical degree. And then Dr. Richard Urso. Looks like they didn't finish the website before publishing it. All of these are signs that these so-called doctors are not people you want to take advice from on healthcare. Any day of the week, I choose the fact checkers at Facebook to tell me what treatments are good for me and my family. So now that we've adequately established there are no credentials worth paying attention to among that group of so-called doctors, let's take a look at their agenda to maybe get a better idea of what they were talking about. So it looks like they opened up with an opening statement, then they talked about schools, then they talked about the virus itself and facts about the disease. Then they talked about hoaxes. Then they demonstrated hoaxes. Then they had a panel on medical cancel culture. culture. Cancel culture is the way of the world now, and if these doctors want to operate in the medical setting, they're just going to have to deal with the idea that if they go against the World Health Organization and the fact checkers at these social media platforms, they deserve to get canceled. Then they talked about fear. Apparently, they were trying to allay the public's fear about this sickness. Then they talked about public policy, and then they took a lunch. This was the only part of the forum that the fact checkers did not want to delete. Then they had a photo op on Capitol Hill, and then they had the press conference where members of the DC press corps were there to ask them questions. Then came the most controversial moment of the day, HCQ. Why was it so controversial? Because they had a discussion talking about the fact that this medicine right here could very well save lives. But wait a minute. We all know, thanks to the gatekeepers in the mainstream media and our favorite celebrities, that this is a dangerous and untested medicine which should never be used in the instance specifically to treat this virus. Even though the World Health Organization at one time in the past had published it on its model list of essential medicines, but not now. They've taken it off. We all know that this right here, this is a fake news article, and the Epic Times, they never print news that is worthy of adding to my stories. Right now, I just want to make everyone aware that I am 100% on board with the fact checkers of YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you so much, you guys, for injecting your politics into our healthcare discussions. After the deletion of this video, we are all well aware of the fact that the only type of discussions we can have are the ones sanctioned by you and your cronies at your agencies. From now on, anytime I want to get accurate and truthful medical information, I'm going to go directly to my Facebook feed, because if anybody knows, it's going to be them. Then, after completing their discussion about that dangerous and unproven treatment for this disease right here, they went on to discuss following the money, most likely about the research and development industry, which has sprung up quickly around this deadly new disease. And then they concluded with a discussion on lockdowns, and then concluding with individual interviews with each of the physicians involved in this seriously dangerous discussion they had on Capitol Hill. This press conference was so dangerous that within hours it had been deleted from every single social media platform you could possibly imagine. People attempted to do re-uploads, and even those were deleted as well. Clearly, there is no agenda here. All the fact checkers on these social media platforms only care about making sure that you get the correct, or read that, sanctioned information about this disease and the treatments for it. Once again, I just want to warn everybody, do not listen to any of these doctors unless you want to live. All right, next, as a follow-up, in a stunning and brave move, Twitter has suspended Donald Trump Jr. after he had the nerve to post that viral video, which was talking about what they call successful HCQ treatments for CV-19. Tech censorship and the leftist intolerance is the biggest threat to America's future. And on Monday, Twitter even censored President Trump for posting the video of Dr. Stella Immanuel, where she discussed her successful use of HCQ in treating CV-19 patients. Now, Dr. Immanuel said on Monday that she has personally treated over 350 patients with CV-19 using the triple treatment of HCQ, zinc, and Zithromax, and they've all recovered. Now, I know that for myself, I'm not going to believe that unless it's given to me directly from the gatekeepers at Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Only then am I going to believe anything that comes out of a doctor's mouth. Twitter took the video down, and then Twitter suspended Donald Trump Jr. for posting the other viral video of those doctors talking about the dangerous and experimental treatment of HCQ. Here is an image of the Twitter violation that Donald Trump Jr. received, but wait, they didn't stop there. That's right. They also had to remove this dangerous information from the account of Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell being the firebrand attorney of Michael Flynn. We know that Sidney Powell is not very smart, especially when it comes to matters of medical importance. And a big thank you to Twitter for having the bravery to remove this dangerous misinformation from their platform. I say go for it, Twitter. There's no reason to think that here in America, people like myself or my viewers should have the freedom to investigate treatments that they themselves deem appropriate based upon the recommendations of their own healthcare providers. Once again, the only people who should have the ability to tell us what to believe when it comes to medical issues are the people at Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Well, isn't it ironic that the social media companies are so focused on making sure the public gets the truth, but when they have the opportunity to testify before Congress, they seem to actually forget that credo, because Representative Matt Gaetz has just filed a criminal referral against the Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Why? For making false statements to Congress while under oath. That means he lied. So Congressman Matt Gaetz yesterday filed this referral against Mark Zuckerberg for making these false statements. Now, he cited Project Veritas's undercover investigation featuring two brave, and I mean that honestly this time, brave whistleblowers in his letter he sent to U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr. So in the press release, he said during a hearing of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and also a joint hearing of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, Zuckerberg repeatedly and categorically denied his company engaged in bias against conservative speech, persons, policies, or politics, and also denied that Facebook censored and suppressed content supportive of President Donald Trump and other conservatives. Well, isn't it funny that in June of 2020, Project Veritas published its results of an undercover investigation featuring two whistleblowers who worked as Facebook's content moderators, revealing that the overwhelming majority of content filtered by Facebook's AI program was content in support of President Donald Trump, Republican candidates for office, or just conservatism in general. Now, Gaetz' continued oversight is an essential part of Congress's constitutional authority. As a member of this body, I question Mr. Zuckerberg's veracity and challenge his willingness to cooperate with our oversight authority, diverting congressional resources during time-sensitive investigations and materially impeding our work. Such misrepresentations are not only unfair, they are potentially illegal and fraudulent. Well, as Roger Stone can well tell you, when you're accused of lying to Congress, that's committing perjury, you can get some pretty hefty jail time. Now, Roger Stone did not deserve the time he was sentenced to, but I think that Mark Zuckerberg is a strong, healthy young man, and he can certainly withstand 7 to 9 years in a federal penitentiary. If they care so much about lies being broadcast to the American public, they should also care about lies being told to the U.S. Congress. So today was the day we've been waiting for. Attorney General Barr back testifying before the House Judiciary Committee as chaired by Gerald Nadler. Now, he released his opening statement ahead of time, and he wanted to set the stage. He made it very clear that he is not a sycophant for President Trump. He didn't seek out this position. He didn't know President Trump ahead of time. He was on his way to living a happy life in retirement. And he said, ever since I made it clear that I was going to do everything I could to get to the bottom of the grave abuses involved in the bogus Russiagate scandal, many of the Democrats on this committee have attempted to discredit me by conjuring up a narrative that I am simply the president's factotum who disposes of criminal cases according to his instructions. Judging me from the letter inviting me to this hearing, that appears to be your agenda today. Throughout this opening statement, Attorney General Barr pulls no punches. He shows the agenda of the Democrats, he calls it out for what it is, and he really points a spotlight on what they're doing to divide and destroy this country. He said that he was troubled by the DOJ's use as a political weapon under the last presidential administration, and as we all well know, continuing on well into President Trump's administration as well, saying, "When asked to consider returning, I did so because I revere the department and believed my independence would allow me to help steer her back to the core mission of applying one standard of justice for everyone and enforcing the law even-handedly without partisan conditions." Now, he even went on to talk to several issues which are really plaguing our country right now, specifically the death of Mr. Floyd and all of the rioting and unrest in Portland. Now, bringing up the Washington Post's data on the number of unarmed African Americans who have been killed by police this year, Barr said it was low, and lower, in fact, than the number of unarmed white men killed by police in the same period of time. But of course, any instance of excessive force is one too many and needs to be addressed. Clearly, Attorney General Barr has had his work cut out for him, and seeing him today before this committee, the work is even harder than I think any of us could possibly imagine. They were rude. They would not allow him to answer questions. They would say dismissive and disgusting things to him, and Attorney General Barr had a couple of moments where he traded verbal jabs with the Democrats on the committee. But there was one moment that really stuck out, and I want to go to this clip right now that we've got from my good friend Methods. So here is the clip. Jim Jordan gets it, Methods said. Clearly, Jim Jordan understood how important this testimony was and how important it could continue to be. He calls out Nadler and the other Democrats because they will not allow Attorney General Barr to answer the questions they are asking him. Now, it really makes you think that probably they were not even looking for answers. What they're looking for is sound bites so that their questions can be used by the media and then claim that Attorney General Barr refused to answer. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Chairman, Mr. John, I got a question.
What purpose? For what purpose does the gentleman seek?
For months you've tried to get the Attorney General to come. He's here. Why don't you let him speak? Why don't you let him answer the questions?
The gentleman is not...
Time after time. If you want the Attorney General to come, at least let him answer the questions and the accusations made against him.
The gentleman's rudeness is not recognized.
Rudeness?
Rudeness is on the other side.
Mr. Stanton is...
Time after time, you refuse to let the Attorney General of the United States answer the questions posed to him.
Mr. Stanton is recognized.
Well, maybe the last few witnesses will actually let the Attorney General speak.
Attorney General?
Not surprising, the Democrats are not interested in getting answers out of Attorney General Barr. They are interested in making accusations, and they are interested in trying to make him appear to be something he's not. Attorney General Barr is here for one mission and one mission only, and that is to restore the Department of Justice. As long as we have people like this in Washington, I don't see how we're ever going to make any progress. Now, there are so many instances of Democratic representatives on this committee asking Barr a question and then immediately stepping over his answer, not allowing him to answer. I'm going to show you this one clip, and it's going to summarize the entire hearing.
That it is not a self-defining term, as they
only got 2 minutes, sir.
That they recognized.
Mr. Barr, if I
Yeah,
may.
but this is a hearing. I thought I was the one that was supposed to be heard.
Well, let me, and I'm going to get there. The current dispute, you talked back when the Supreme...
The look on Bill Barr's face. He is so fed up throughout this entire hearing. Time after time after time, no one will allow him to answer questions, unless, of course, he's being asked questions by a Republican member of the committee. It's a pretty disgusting display. However, it is nothing surprising coming from the Democrats of today's Washington, D.C. All right, and finally, one more from the hearing. Attorney General Barr had to wait about an hour this morning because Nadler was in a car accident on his way to the hearing, so everything got held up. As a result, it was going a little bit long, and he didn't get an opportunity to have lunch. So, like a self-respecting attendee of this hearing, he requested a recess, which was only going to be about 5 minutes. Let's see what Nadler had to say.
Mr. Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break?
Dean is recognized.
Could we take a 5-minute break, Mr. Chairman?
No.
That's a common courtesy,
Dean is
Mr. Chairman,
recognized.
of every witness.
I waited an hour for you this morning. I haven't had lunch. I'd like to take a 5-minute break.
Mr. Attorney General, we are almost finished. We're going to be finished in a few minutes. Otherwise, we can certainly take a break, but
You're class.
okay.
Yeah.
After this, if you still
Well-
want, we'll have a break.
No, he wants a break now.
You want it now?
And you just
Fine.
mentioned
Committee-
rudeness.
committee
I think
will
we're
stand-
seeing it on display. Let's let
Committee
the
will
Attorney
stand
General
in
have a
recess.
break.
Absolutely unbelievable. Nadler not allowing Barr to take a break when he had to wait for him. He's already gone on for several hours. This is the absolute most disrespectful treatment of a witness I have ever seen in any of these hearings that I've covered. As Bill Barr said, Nadler is a real class act. All right, and finally, in an exclusive from the Gateway Pundit, earlier this summer, we learned that donations to BLM were being routed directly over to Act Blue. Well, apparently in early July, those contributions moved to something called the Tides Center, which is a George Soros-linked entity. Now, they were originally flowing into Democratic coffers through Act Blue, and then to Thousand Currents, a nonprofit entity with a former member of the Weather Underground on its board, as if that wasn't bad enough. But now it looks like it's so bad that the Democrats have moved those contributions from Act Blue to Thousand Currents and now to the George Soros-linked Tides Foundation. Now, Candace Owens had previously reported about that BLM Act Blue relationship, and then Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch actually confirmed those findings. The Weather Underground member was Susan Rosenberg. She was the one serving on the board of 1,000 Currents, and that was actually reported by Wikipedia. But there is actually no link to 1,000 Currents on Wikipedia any longer. Kind of strange that they would remove that. We've often wondered how deeply involved Soros is in all of these protests. Well, Susan Rosenberg, as a member of the Weather Underground, was friends with Bill Ayers for many years. In January of 2001, she was pardoned by President Clinton on his last day in office, and even Chuck Schumer was critical of it at the time. Now, clearly having a convicted terrorist on a board which is handling all of this money was a bad look even by today's standards. So they decided to switch it up and push it to a different group. First, they removed from the Thousand Currents website the fact that Susan was a member of its board. Now, this occurred shortly after the initial connection was reported between Thousand Currents, Susan Rosenberg, and the Weather Underground and BLM. And then they decided to move all of the money that Thousand Currents was receiving related to BLM to the Tides Center. And we have evidence right here showing that this took place earlier this month. Here is a filing from Davis Wright Tremaine showing that all of the money is going to be transferred from Thousand Currents over to the Tides Foundation. Now, this Soros-linked entity has a long history of suspect actions, and they're listed as one of the many organizations being funded by Soros. The website shows how the Soros-connected entity has nearly $1 billion in assets, and a Canadian website explained how the Soros-related nonprofit skirts taxes under the guise of being not-for-profit. There's been a common thread in the global communist movement since 1997, and it's a system that people have heard very little to nothing about. It's called social economy, an elaborate government-funded sector that produces very little in profits but consumes billions in tax dollars. Through government tax incentives, tax credits, grants, charities, foundations, nonprofits, and non-governmental organizations, the government has been siphoning off the taxpayers' money to fund this social economy. There has been an elaborate money laundering scheme designed by corporations and their foundations to offset profit margins by reinvesting in their foundations, while at the same time lobbying and pushing for governmental policy changes in favor of the social economy. The Tides Foundation refers to the hybrid universe, which is shown in Figure 1. The hybrid universe is defined by foundations and businesses bending governments to their will. The social economy is at the very heart of global mass migration. In simplest terms, Canadians are funding their own invasion. Now, here it is. We've got the intersection of government, business, and charities and non-profits. This is the convergence and growth of the hybrid universe. This is their goal. It's clear that all the recent unrest around the country is not spontaneous. They are coordinated and planned, and these riots are related to the same individuals involved in similar activities for years. and all of these people are related to George Soros. This is nothing new. This is what we've seen in other countries around the world. Soros will fund a revolution so that he can affect social change and bring about the world that he wants to see. Think all of these color revolutions we've seen in European countries and in Middle Eastern countries. Well, once again, people, here in America, we are in the midst of the Purple Revolution, and the best is certainly yet to come. Whether it's going to be from us or from them, something has to change. All right, guys, well, that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zak the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to thank everyone for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet, I urge you to please consider subscribing. There will be a couple of videos that pop up if you want to continue to watch. There's also some ways in the description of this video that you can follow me on other platforms. Please consider doing that as well. And if you want to support the program directly, there are means to do that below as well. Thank you all for your support over the last couple of years. Consider liking and sharing this video and help me get the real news to people who don't yet know they've been lied to.